The RITO and the ZORA are two of the most well-known races in the Zelda series, and are also connected, since some of the ZORA eventually became RITOs. If these two races would end up in a war, who would win then? Which one is more powerful? Well, let's find out. In one corner we have the RITO. They are primarily avian in appearance, possessing wings, a beak, and talons. The range of their characteristics varies between the ones seen in the Wind Waker and Breath of the Wild, with the two games featuring a stark difference in appearance. In the former, RITO are much more humanoid and possess fewer avian features, whereas in Breath of the Wild, the RITO are more akin to anthropomorphic birds with almost no human traits. While RITO can fly forward, they cannot ascend on their own and rely on the wind to lift them upwards. However, this is different in the Wind Waker, so I'm not sure. The art of creating an updraft to soar high into the air, which Wily could do, is considered to be a masterpiece of aerial techniques even among the RITO. Now on the other side we have the zoras, which are normally found in or near large bodies of water, but very rarely stray far away from them. While still generally humanoid, the zoras resemble various marine creatures in their body structure. Most of them wear no clothing at all, but certain members of their species do, as shown by the Zora guards in The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess. Besides that, they're great in water and can perform almost any action. They can even swim up waterfalls. So on one side we have the Zora, which are fish-like creatures that are great in the water, and on the other side RITOs, which are birds that love to fly around. Now, who would win if these two races ended up in an all-out war? Well, for this we will look at a couple of things, and we will use The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild as our main example, keeping the other games in mind. The points we will be looking at are their abilities and weaknesses, base, weapons and armor, and leader. Let's go from the beginning and first look at the Zora. Like I mentioned before, they're great in water and are extremely agile. Besides that, they can also use their fins to attack, which we have seen in Majora's Mask. And on land, they're similar to normal humans, however, they're a lot taller. But they have one huge weakness that can kill them extremely quickly: fire and ice. We saw this in Twilight Princess. The Zora armor in this game allows Link to breathe underwater and also allows him to swim underwater when equipped. However, the armor makes Link more vulnerable to fire and ice attacks. And since the body armor is made of Zora scales, it most likely means that they're extremely weak to these elements. Now for the RITO. They are great at flying, agile, just as tall as the Zoras, and some can even create their own wind in order to go up and down instead of just gliding. However, most of them are able to fly over a great distance and can hover in place, which we have seen in the Wind Waker. Due to flying at high altitudes and living near the cold Hebra mountains, the RITOs have apparently developed insulating feathers that allow them to endure cold temperatures they would encounter while flying at high altitudes and living near these cold regions. However, they don't really have hands in Breath of the Wild, so it could be that they're not that good in doing any fine work using their wings. But I'm not sure about this, and besides that, they don't seem to have any specific weaknesses like the Zora. So clearly, the RITO win here. They don't have a specific weakness, and their main ability, flying, could be used everywhere in the world of Zelda. Zoras, however, are weak to fire and ice. They're great at swimming, but this isn't useful everywhere. Now for their base, and for this we will take Breath of the Wild as an example, because in almost every game they're similar to these ones. The RITO village is found in Tabanta Frontier in the middle of Lake Totori, and has many unique shops that sell food, armor, and even arrows. At the top of it all, rising on the spire above the village, is a long overhang of stone. It has teeth-like structures along each side, and the spire the village is built on resembles a solidified volcanic core. The area around it is mostly mountains, forests, and rocky terrain, which is perfect for the RITOs to live in. It's actually one of the best bases in the game because getting to it is extremely difficult. It's extremely high up. Besides that, it's all connected with bridges that you can cut off or attack when enemy soldiers are on it. And the water down below is completely useless to the Zora. Another factor that comes into play is the weather. It's extremely windy and freezing cold, which the Zoras hate. Now for the Zora. Their base is set in water where they feel at home, and they're surrounded by mountains and grasslands, which also makes it very windy. The structure and geography of Zora's domain in Breath of the Wild is similar to the one in Ocarina of Time. It is located in the Lanayru Great Spring region of Hyrule and is ruled by their king and the youngest child, Prince Sidon. Besides that, it has shops and all the other usual things, so not a lot of special stuff there. Most parts of the city are open, and it's completely closed in by ridges and mountains on all sides. And in order to get to it, you need to cross a huge, beautifully looking bridge, which can't be destroyed as easily as the ones the RITO have. Here, yet again, the RITO win. Their base is extremely isolated, and when they get attacked, they can easily deal with the problem, especially with the set paths that they have in place, like the bridges between the pillars leading to the village. There are even updrafts, which make flying incredibly easy, which also helps with defending. Even the weather is in their favor. It's freezing cold up there, which Zoras are weak to. They have no chance of winning. The Zora's base also has one huge weakness. It's surrounded by mountains, and their city is completely open. And just guess what the RITO's favorite weapon is. Now that I mention it, let's have a look at their weapons, and we will start with the Zora. They have a version of almost every weapon type in the game, but by the looks of it, they mostly fight using spears. Almost every guard in Zora's domain has one, and it's quite understandable. They're fast and thin weapons, which is handy in water, and also when using more agile combat tactics and moves. Besides that, the fact that they're tall, combined with the length of the spear, gives them an insane reach with this weapon. Now, they also wear armor, however, they're not covered in it, just the upper body and head. This will partially defend them, but there's still a lot exposed. However, their skills are also extremely tough, so luckily enough that also defends them to an extent. Now the RITO also have almost any weapon type in the game, however there are two they like the most, the spear and bow. All the guards and best warriors of the village use these weapons, and they're extremely skilled with them. Their weapons are also designed to be more aerodynamic, which helps with flying and using them in the air. Besides that, their bows function differently compared to the Zora ones. Those have a real curve when shot, while the RITO ones shoot more straight. Both of these weapons work well with their extreme speed in the air and agile moves like we have seen with Wily. When it comes to their armor, they're at a disadvantage, because they only wear soft body armor, most likely to not get slowed down by it. However, it covers a bigger part of their body, and underneath it they have a thick layer of feathers which also protects them. Now, yet again, the RITO win with a freaking landslide. There are two things that give them an insane advantage: the bows and their flying ability. They can use this to outperform the Zora every step of the way. They can snipe them while they're flying, and since the Zora are so tall, they can easily hit them. And if they would attack their base, then it would be an easy win. Zora's domain is surrounded by ridges, which the RITO can use to glide down and bombard them, or even do this from the side. And since it's so open, there aren't a lot of places for them to hide. It would mean the end for them. The Zora bows can never reach the RITO, and they aren't skilled enough with them. Besides that, elemental arrows could be used to completely destroy the Zora. Even in hand-to-hand combat, they can just fly at them, hit, and then fly away. If they do this in a huge group, then there is no way they can stop them. Even if the Zora would hide in the water, then the RITO can still shoot them. Just look at bow fishing. You spot one lurking in the shallows, carefully moving closer, draw back your bow and arrow, take aim, and then let it fly. This way you can hit them as long as they don't go too deep, and they have to come up at one point. However, no army is useful if the leader is bad at his job. So, who has the better general? Now the Zora leader is extremely powerful and has experience with warfare. He confronted a guardian on his own and used his supernatural strength to throw it into a ravine, which shattered the guardian into pieces. So clearly he's extremely powerful and has seen some action. Besides that, he's a really good leader. But if we look at the RITO leader, then we encounter some problems. He is wise and knowledgeable of Hyrulean history, however, not everyone listens to him. Though he is the head of the village, some of the younger adult RITO stubbornly choose to ignore his warnings against approaching the divine beast. And it's implied that he lost respect among some of the adult RITO, presumably due to his old age. So their leader is a bit unstable, but something like a war would probably unite them. The Zora clearly win in this department. However, is it enough to save them from the RITO? Well, most likely not. The RITO are just too good. They even have a shooting range where you can practice flying and combat, so they're ready to use this tactic. Besides that, when it comes to abilities and weaknesses, base, and weapons and armor, the RITO win with a landslide. The ZORA would certainly lose, but luckily enough they're allies, so this will probably never happen. Well, let's hope so at least. Thanks for watching everybody, I hope you enjoyed. If you want to watch more videos, click the annotations on the screen right now, and be sure to click the subscribe button with the little bell next to it. Then you won't miss anything, this is really important. Help me out, people.